So, hello everyone. I'm Verde, and I'm back after us. This is the second attempt to record this video today. There is mostly because something happened within the last attempt. I suppose my computer froze. Something happened and the game didn't like that. So, and anyway, here we are, I suppose. Thinking about making a sniper with attack speed, but let's see how well that goes. I will start with a very easy mission. As you can see, I got some progress while that recording was done, but not that much progress. I didn't unlock any different power or anything like that. I mean, I suppose I could try to do this 20 minutes defense. Yeah, that could work. We'll put a sniper here, just trying to oh, attack speed, nice. Bloodline, nice. It is pretty early. I will go with Jackal 3. Jackal T. Let's put more snipers. I can fit another sniper here. As soon as I go auto shields or caliber. Go. This way my snipers will be very dangerous. But my current I worry a bit about my attack speed. King the hill, that's very nice. I got some issue during the last playthrough that I tried to record, like the game suddenly froze up on me. I don't know why exactly. It showed no signs of lag or anything like that. I'm not even sure it was the game or it was my PC, because my PC sometimes tends to do strange things like that. So I could go with very high attack speed, and I suppose I will do that. This upgrade is a little bit too strong. It removes the attack speed cap, which is nice, and it doubles the attack speed. But I believe doubling it might be too strong, you know. Not sure. One funny thing is that enemies are not... Oh shit. Let me close WhatsApp web so you don't hear those things. But anyway, I was talking about some old versions of Rollovax. Basically, I watched a video from 3 years ago that I was playing the same game. It was very different back in the day. But it was also very interesting to see how much the game changed. And also, there was some things back then that are good. That were good. And not saying that they aren't good anymore, but there are some design choices I did back then. Not specifically design choices, but implementation processes, and basically there were some things that were nice back then. And I'm thinking of perhaps bringing some of those things back. Like, for instance, there were different types of lurkers, and they had different behaviors. They also looked nicer than they currently do, mostly because of how they used to move their limbs. They used a more complex system back then. Now they move their limbs in a simpler way, and I don't like the simpler way, I suppose. So I'll look to the direction of perhaps bringing back the complex way of moving the legs. Or perhaps, oh, another stack of projectile tea. Or perhaps, instead of simply doing that, perhaps bringing back the old idea of having several behaviors from them would be interesting, you know. I'm again doing the this thing because King of the Hill. Uh, I believe this is very strong, a little bit of growth to fill in the gaps. But anyway, what was I saying? For structures, I like this. Oh, there was also tons of stuff that basically I had to remake this game from scratch several times. I believe it was 4 to 5 times already, and many things got lost in those translations. You know, many things that I perhaps would like to bring back. Like there was. One second. Slow brain is being slow. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? I have no idea. But it's working, I suppose. Excuse me. Oh, no, wrong. You weren't supposed to be there. Like, 1 second. Finishing up the expansion. There should be something in the corner here. No, there shouldn't. Or should it? Yeah, should. There is 4 Ys there. So, one thing here. And now, going back to what things there were back then that I probably would bring back. There was something like a wasp house in some biomes that spawned wasps and it was damaged, and over time as well. That would be nice. I would make it so that it only spawns wasps once you get within a certain range of it, because otherwise it wouldn't work that well. Like, imagine you're here and there is a constant horde of wasps coming from a certain direction. I personally wouldn't like that, and it also would be an issue performance-wise. But once there is a building within a certain radius, why not, right? The idea of having passive things that are, how can I say it, violent? No, violent is certainly not the word. Aggressive, hostile. You know, there are things that are static that can't spawn or come towards your base, but they can be there. That was a thing back then, and there isn't a thing anymore. You know, I mean, there are geysers in Kokatune. There are also lava lakes on Kokatune, which do this kind of things, but I mean, they are too extreme to a sense. Like, I wouldn't want a beginner starting player to immediately come into a map that they are geysers, you know. But perhaps, perhaps wasp houses. You know, back in the day, the design of the game was very different than it is today. Like, for instance, uh, the first thing that comes to mind, upgrades would only drop from enemies, like a physical drop from them, or rocks. These rocks were actually there since the very beginning of the game, but yep, it would be one of the only sources of upgrades. There were no levels, you know, and you would have to pay for the upgrade. The rarer they would be, the more you had to pay for them, which is interesting to say the least. Not a design choice I would have made currently, but it was something back then. Also, the bases were much more smaller because the engine I made wasn't capable of properly handling that much. So, due to the bases having a technical constraint on the size of them, I would have to balance the game to be much harder than it currently is, right? Because, funnily enough, why is this a symmetric? Funnily enough, making the game harder is a way to prevent lag. You see, if the player loses before it gets to do a massive base, it doesn't get it doesn't see the lag. The player doesn't see the lag. They don't get to see the lag. And that was somewhat useful. Actually, it is a measure that it is in today, to be honest, because oh, I did you see that happening? What is happening? Did my recording catch that? That was just what happened the last time. I don't think it is a game, because if you words the game, it wouldn't affect the sound. Oh, did you see that issue that all these snipers weren't being able to kill those lurkers? Yeah, that issue has already been fixed on the latest version, but not on this one, because I haven't uploaded the latest version to Steam yet. So, yeah. But anyway, going back to old designs. Oh, this base is quite spherical now that now that I'm looking at it. Anyway, going back to old Rollex designs, there was actually a design that I'll probably bring to Unos, because the game currently, basically, Unos is a planet where there isn't that much going on here. I mean, it is the most, I wouldn't say left out planet, but it feels like, you know. And back in my mind, I always feel like there is less content in Unos than there is in the rest of the game, and that bothers me. my initial thought would be that it should be somewhat symmetrical, I suppose. But it isn't. That is a bad thing. I would prefer if it was symmetrical. The amount of content for every planet, you know. But perhaps because it is some kind of an intermediary planet, since it goes in between the other planets, it gets less attention, I suppose, because when I am testing something manually to test the feel of it, I usually go from the Konos and then Kokatune. Mostly because I know that's a bias of mine. Because I want to test how it feels in the early game and in the late game. But never in the mid game, you know? I'll actually stop growth right now because the beast is very cool looking. I made this entirely by accident, quite kinda. But anyway, there was a tentacle back then that would sprout off out of the ground and throw stones at buildings. The easier way to handle that tentacle would be to basically just snipe it out by killing it with a random active ability or even a sniper. And that didn't even get into the second version of the game, which I didn't implement that tentacle, and then it became lost. I don't even know if I have any version of the first Rolodex, and I really feel sad about it, you know, because there were just so many things. Yeah, not that many things. But anyway, there were ants, which I eventually brought back. There were wasps, slugs. There were a machine gun and a sniper turret. And the basic one, of course. And a behemoth. The behemoth was there as well. And it was actually this setup, now coming to think of it. That was totally not intentional. But anyway. And also, the game used to have a very large hotbar over here. In order to look at some cannon's health, you would have to basically click it, and it would have a picture of the cannon here and a hexagonal health bar, and then the options of what to do with said cannon, you know. The interface was very poor in that sense. It was reminiscent of Dota, to be honest. Not that Dota interface is poor, but I believe it isn't the best for managing a game like this, you know. I prefer the current style of UI, I suppose. There was so much on the UI. Also, let me think. What else did I not bring back? The tentacles and the wasp's house was a thing that I didn't bring back from the first version. Actually, it wasn't the first version, but it was the first playable version, which is something. For the second playable version, that one actually got to Steam, so I have access to those versions because of Steam. And on those versions, There was tons of things. Like, there was a specific enemy on the desert that was able to become invulnerable and go through the ground. And it was a very bad design because in a tower defense, an enemy that goes invulnerable is not a good choice in general. It would have a cyclic behavior that I really don't like this bug, but thankfully it is fixed right now. Just not in this version. Anyway, uh, that enemy would dig itself into the ground and just re-emerge nearby your structures, and it was a pain to deal with. But no, it wasn't really fun at all. Great. It wasn't really fun. What else there was in that version? There was champion enemies. Basically, several versions of every enemy in the game. That basically like lurkers. There are currently normal lurkers, fast lurkers, and big lurkers. But there used to be tons of them. Like, I believe there was a fire lurker and lightning lurker. The lightning lurker was quite strong. Like, if you shot a lightning lurker, it would deal some damage back. You know. And the fast lurker used to, instead of just simply running in a straight direction to your base, it would jump around to avoid projectiles, you know. The best way of dealing with them would be snipers, I suppose. Because snipers have the somewhat instant projectile speed. Which is nice. Yeah, the lurkers used to look so better than they do right now. I will bring that back. And that is the thing about development. About desire-based development. Should I call it that way? Basically, when you think of something new, some new idea, the new toy, you always tend to benefit the new toy over the old one, right? Like, for instance, when I rewrote the game, I had so many ideas all of the times. And that often took precedent over recoding something that was already in the game in the previous version. Get it? Like, oh, on the second version, I wanted to make a simpler UI, and I wanted to make more beautiful terrain, because it used to be pretty different than it currently is. It feels very nostalgic to look back at then, at the old terrain. But anyway, what am I? Oh yeah, every time I rewrite the game, basically some new ideas take precedent over some old ones, and that's not perfect, you know, because some content got lost in those translations. And it is good that I could create those content. Like, I could just simply opt not implementing the digger enemies. which I believe they aren't that good of a design. Another thing that I didn't implement, that honestly it was a good thing that I didn't implement, was base division. Basically, if your base was divided, separated, the smaller part of that base would turn off and become like these ruins over there. You would have to reconquer it, kind of. And while that was interesting, not in a strategic point, like you wouldn't be able to simply go build a line, and at the same time, it was quite frustrating when an enemy, especially a spear, was able to cut through a wall of yours, and now half of your base is off. You know, very not interesting. Also, what else? There was some upgrades that depended on that mechanic that also didn't get implemented. One of them was the worst upgrade in the history of Rolovax, which was weak link protection. Basically, let me see this thing. This building. You see that actually this building. You see if this building is destroyed under the old scenario, these would be disconnected, right? Weak link protection was an upgrade that made it so that tiles that your base depended on would be stronger, in the sense would take less damage. Why is that a bad upgrade? Honestly, first of all, building a base in order to optimize for that upgrade was borderline impossible. Really, you would have to make a very weird base. And also, it wasn't that good, because if you want to make a tanky base, you don't want a base that once the first tile is destroyed, your entire base is gone. See, that isn't a good idea for a build. And also, it generated so much lag in order to check that. Anyway, not a good idea, that upgrade. Thankfully, it never got back. Let me pick this one. I believe I'll extend this mission. It is pretty chilly here. We get to talk a bit, about old versions and nostalgia and those kinds of things. It's been, I believe, 5 years since I started this project, perhaps? I'm not even sure. And this base is quite strong. This upgrade is quite strong. The spec. I'll get a little bit more of these. I'll extend. Let's talk for 5 more minutes, right? Let's see. What else got lost that you probably won't miss? Oh, there was... Basically, every enemy had an electric variant of them, right? There were Thunderballs, and those would destroy your base in seconds, because they had 2 mechanics that were very bad for the game. Because one mechanic with which I will certainly bring back eventually, is that when they would hit your base, instead of bouncing back, they would teleport to the next tile and then go through your base like a night lightning getting conducted through the through your base. And it was pretty cool, to be honest. It was a very cool mechanic. And the other mechanic was the bad one. Because every time they would do that, they became a little bit faster when they got out. And then, after a certain velocity, they split in two. And then, suddenly, in a few seconds, you go from having one enemy touching your base, especially if it was a base like this, to several hundred of them. It wasn't a good mechanic, you know. But it was visually interesting, I suppose. What else? What else did I implement that I missed? I really missed the tentacle thing. Yes. Oh, there was a very strange design choice back then, which was that basically special buildings you would have in order to unlock them, instead of just equipping them on the equipment tab, you would have to find them in the wilderness, which would be not like ruins. You would have to find blueprint structures and then claim those blueprint structures, and that is not quite. And you had little control over what you build. Also, there were synergies, which is not something I would implement back. Because basically, when you had a building next to another building, they would sometimes shot a synergized shot with the. But why I wouldn't implement such a thing back? Because we already have merge into the game. I'm currently looking towards way of making merge a little bit more accessible, because I do recognize that it only being a part of Value Drift is a little bit bad, you know? A little bit limiting. Perhaps having a tech thing, perhaps that allows you to make one merge as you start the game, that would be nice. Anyway, there were synergies, and they were a pain in several reasons, in several senses. What else? Lightnings used to look a lot cooler, but then I had to change them in order to be more optimized. Oof. My bones? That snowball was a little bit too fast for my tastes. But it's fine, it was only one, right? Let's see, I'm learning. Get experience. Oh, there was also an electric explosive slug that would disable your shields in an area. Not cool. Why am I taking growth? I disabled it. Let's go, just a few more seconds. I mean, with 10 seconds remaining, you offer me this? Let's get it. Yellow. The most useless clown factory. I'll probably... I won't have time for another mission today. Mostly because of that crash earlier. So I guess I'll finish the recording for now here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you like it, don't forget to leave a like on the video because it helps a lot. My channel is quite small. And basically I need to be noticed by the algorithm senpai. So, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time.